So now, making and managing money is not difficult, just that it has different approach. Now, I want to debunk what has been in your mind that making money is difficult. Making money is an aspect of wealth creation. Then also, some people have tried severally to manage money or maybe manage their resources. And each time they try, they fail. And because of that, they feel it's difficult. I can't do this. There are people that is so easy for them to do. But I want to debunk that claim that making money and managing money is not difficult. It's just that it has a different approach. Maybe you haven't found that approach, or maybe you know that approach, but you have not been able to put it into practice. Or maybe you have put it into practice, but it has not yielded the desired results that you long for. So the journey we are about to embark is going to open our eyes to know what it entails to make money and also to manage money. And also, you will also discover that it's not difficult, but it's just that there is a different approach to it. It's like, for example, you have 3 doors and you're trying to use one key to open 3 doors. The Bible said, I have given you the keys to the kingdom. I've given you the key. Sorry, the key to the kingdom. Now, when you come into the kingdom, there are several things in the kingdom. So you cannot use one key to open several doors. You might be doing well in academics, you might be doing well in your career, but you are not doing well financially. Why? Because when it comes to career, let me say, for example, you're a salesperson. You go ahead and do certifications in sales to have mastery in that area. Then, for example, when it comes to maybe academics, you do the necessary thing to gain mastery. But when it comes to wealth, when it comes to financial matters, we don't deem it fit to gain mastery by doing the relevant things, because everything in life has its key. If you must excel financially, you must discover the key for financial success. I'm laying the foundation. So if you don't discover the key, you will keep failing, even though you have done well spiritually, you have done well career-wise, you have done well business-wise. But when it comes to money matters, I see a lot of people that money pass through their hands, but they cannot even tell you what happens to them. They can't tell you what happens to them. They can't even explain why they can't even return money, because money has how will I put it? There is what is called psychology of money. The way you study a human being, you have to study money. That is why you see people go to the university, they read finance. Why do they have to? Because you can't claim you know whatever knowledge you have in a particular area until you go and gain mastery. You do the relevant things, you get the required key to be able to unlock the potential therein. You will not be successful. So let's move. Okay, so first things first. What is the first thing we need to do? Intentional living. Why do I say so? For a person to succeed at this stage, you have to live an intentional life. Now, intentional means deliberate. There is something that I learned from my supervisor while I was still in the bank. He said, some people get things by stubbornness, as in you just suddenly realize that, oh, you have this. Now, if you check, what did I do to get this? You will not see. And oftentimes when you jam money like that, it doesn't stay. Because there are processes when it comes to the cycle of money. There is wealth creation, creating the wealth. Then there is wealth retention. It is one thing to create wealth. It's another thing for you to retain it. So most of the time, people easily create wealth. There are people that creating wealth is not a problem. Or like some people that will tell you, I don't even know what to do to multiply money. But there are people that when they create this wealth, they can't retain it. They can't even give an account of how it went. Because there is no process, there is no structure, there is no system on retaining this wealth. So if you haven't been living intentionally, then it means you have to unlearn it right here and now. When it comes to money matters, you must live an intentional life. There must be a system. There must be a structure. If not, you will keep running into problems. I always give people this example. A married man that married the wife had a very beautiful wedding, and the wife takes in and everybody's happy. Oh, to God be the glory. Now, the pregnancy gave them 9 months notice. 9 good months. If you add 3 months, that's a year. 9 good months. And by the time the woman gives birth, you may have encountered such people. You will see the man running around asking for money to pay for the wife's hospital bill. Has anybody encountered such people? Now, when you ask them, why didn't you prepare? They will tell you, I thought she was going to give birth like the Hebrew women. You know, that's a religious thing we always do. And suddenly, the doctor now said she's going to deliver through C-section. Now, there was 9-month notice of either deliver through the normal delivery or C-section. Either of the two can happen. Will something go wrong if you save money for the C-section and the woman delivers normally? After all, you would have saved money that will still be useful to you than believing God, having faith. Yes, I know we all have faith. And at the end of the day, you are put under pressure. Such people would have had lumps of money pass through them during that 9 months. But at the dying minutes, they are under heavy financial pressure. And that is why if you notice, a lot of people borrow. Excuse me. And the Bible said that a borrower will always be a servant to the lender. So if you haven't been living your life intentionally, especially when it comes to financial matters, money matters, you have to change now. If not, you can listen to all the preachers, you can listen to all the motivational speakers in this world. Your problem will not be solved until you change your mindset that there must be a system, there must be a structure of living intentionally when it comes to everything that concerns you, especially in money matters. Follow me, we are going somewhere. Now, intentional living is the art of making our own choices before other people's choices make us. Because the moment you're under financial pressure, you lose your power of choice. Because at that point, the next thing that comes to your mind is to borrow. And you know, once you borrow, you must pay back. And when you pay back, you borrow again. Then you borrow, you pay back. Now your life is dependent on the person that gives you money. You've lost your power of choice. Other people make choices for you. And remember, the person you borrow the money from can come at any time asking for this money. A lot of things can happen. They can drag you to court. They can spoil your name. They can even go to social media. Anything can happen. You've lost your right to choose or even make any choice because you refuse to live intentionally. Let's move. Now, for intentional living, there are 4 things in this quadrant. There are 4 things you must take note of. Please, I need you to note this. When you're living intentionally, when you want to live intentionally, when it comes to money matters, there are 4 things you must identify. Now, when you want to take any decision, ask yourself, is it important and not urgent? Sorry, is it important and urgent? Number 2, is it important and not urgent? Number 3, is it not important but urgent? Number 4, is it not important and not urgent? Now, when you constantly put whatever choice you want to make in these 4 buckets, you are on the pathway of gaining financial freedom. Now, I am not even talking about you having money now, regardless of whatever amount you have in the bank account, because money, when it comes to money matters, it's not just about the physical cash. In Nigeria, it's not about the naira, it's not about the dollar, it's not about the euro, and it's not about the pound sterling. Now, it's about what choice you want to make, the decision you want to make. Is it important and urgent? In that scale of preference, that is how you will have to choose what you want to do when it comes to financial matters. Let's move. Most importantly, knowing how money works is a total different field of expertise. Can you see how we are evolving? Now we are talking about knowing how money works. I call this whole thing the psychology of money. It's not just about having the money or making the money, because I know I am going to burst your bubble. So many people might think I am coming here to tell you this is how you're going to make money, this is where you're going to invest. Not at all. You will make that choice yourself. But I want us to know the rudiments first. Knowing how money works is a total different field of expertise. You must know how money works. If you do not know how money works, money will be a master to you. Money will be the thing controlling you. Until you know how money works, you will constantly be a slave to money. You will not be financially free. Take this from me. Until you know how money works, you must sit down. You know, there are barristers here, there are attorneys here. You sit down, you look at cases, you understand the flow and how it works. I don't know, when it comes to money, we think we can just do anyhow. If you don't sit down to understand the psychology of money and how money works, you will perpetually be a slave to money. Let's move. So now the value of money. There is something, I'm going to take us through a different scenario about money. The value of money. I know if I ask you now to define money, money is a means of exchange for worth, goods, or services. So now the value of money, money has value. Money is not just that leaflet you see. It's beyond that. Just follow me. Now, career success is not the same as financial success. At this point, I will want us to zero in on this case study. This is where we are going to dwell on more. This is the major crux of this matter we are dealing with this evening. Like I said earlier, we attain career success maybe when we identify ourselves as maybe, like, for example, I'm a salesman and I feel I'm very good at sales. Okay, I would decide, okay, to beef up my sales skill, I get certification in sales, and maybe I might also get certification in customer service and maybe customer experience, and I gain mastery in that area, and I'm doing very well. But do you know, I can have career success, but I'm still not financially free. Do you know it's possible? I can be successful as a career person. I can be successful as a business person, but I might be a failure when it comes to financial matters, when it comes to money matters. Now, we are going to study a man. And it will amaze you. What we are about to study is going to open our eyes to maybe what we already know, but maybe we didn't really understand it very well, or maybe what we do not know, maybe we're hearing about it for the first time. Now, we are taking our case study from Joseph. Let me just give a little summary. Joseph is the 11th son of Jacob in the Bible, if you remember. And if you also remember, he was the one that had a dream. And his brothers sold him to the Egyptians as a slave. You know the rest of the story. Now, I want us to come to the place when Pharaoh had a dream. There is noise in the background, please. It's distracting me. Okay, thank you. So when Pharaoh had a dream, if you remember, and one of the servants said, there was a man that interpreted our dream in the prison. Let me call him to interpret that dream. Please follow me. I might be telling a story, but what we are discussing this night is embedded in this story. When Joseph was called to interpret the dream, I want to read the 33 verse of chapter 41. It says, listen please. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and a wise man. Now, if you remember, let me also remind you what the dream was about: the 7 years of abundance and the 7 years of famine. So Joseph, after interpreting the dream, told Pharaoh that there will be 7 years of abundance and there will be 7 years of famine. If I liken this to Nigeria, there was a time when we were in abundance and it was as if money was flowing everywhere. And now we are in the season of famine. Things have quadrupled. The prices of things have quadrupled. Life is becoming almost unbearable. People are fleeing by the day. People can't survive again. Now, Joseph now told Pharaoh, he said, now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and a wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt. Follow me. Let the officers collect 20% of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. Listen to me. I know a lot of us would have touched some very crazy money before now. And because we didn't know this, we are regretting, I used to, what happened? Now he said, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep the food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine. Are you still following me? Please, I want you to be chatting, as in, if you're following me, just please, let me just see it in the comment section. He said, let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine. What does that tell you? Financial freedom. Life is in seasons. In the cycle of life, there are times when you have money in abundance. There are times when you'll be looking for 10 naira. Now, what do you do when you have money in abundance? Even the rich men, there are times they lack money. If you ask Otodola, if you read about him, he went into hell and came back and bounced back. Life is in seasons. There is no man that has money year to year, back to back, without experiencing a time of lack. But the question is, what do you do when you are in your season of plenty? The Bible said that Joseph said that these officers that should be appointed should save 20%. Now I ask you a question. After paying your tithe, do you pay yourself? That's a question you have to answer. After paying your tithe, do you pay yourself? Because most people think once I take out 10% that is tithe, 90% belongs to me to frolic with. I can do whatever I want to do with it. That's not true. Because remember, the money you save, the 20%, is for seed and for bread. Is for seed and for bread. The seed is the aspect of the money that you multiply to get more. The bread is for your consumption. We are going somewhere. And so the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all the servants. And the Pharaoh said to the servants, can we find such a man in whom that has the Spirit of God? And they chose Joseph. Now, I go to verse 49, and he said, Joseph gathered very much grain as the sand of the sea until he stopped counting. In the time of plenty, he gathered so much, he saved so much that he lost count because it was immeasurable. Remember that the reason why Joseph had to save was, he said, that the food shall be kept as a reserve. And I ask you another question. Do you have a reserve? I'm not just talking about savings now. Do you have a reserve? He said, it shall be kept as a reserve for the land, for the 7 years of famine. Are you with me? Are you following? Joseph had to check posterity. He saw the future. Not 7 years, because there was 7 years of plenty, there was 7 years of famine. So that means that Joseph had to plan 14 years ahead. Are you with me? Joseph had to plan 14 years ahead. Why? Because from the very year the season of plenty started, he started saving 20%. That will explain why he lost count. Because for 7 years, he lost count because it was immeasurable. Why was he doing that? He was planning for reserve for the 7 years of plenty and for the 7 years of famine, so that there will be bread in the land. Meaning that during the time of famine, they won't have any cause to worry. Because he put a structure in place. It was a deliberate act. It was an intentional act. He put a system in place whereby he had to save for 14 years. He said, we shall, so that people may not perish during the land of famine. Let's move. And in verse 54b, it said, the famine was in all lands. Hear this. The famine was in all lands, but in all the lands of Egypt, there was bread. The famine was in all lands, but in the land of Egypt, there was bread. Let me tell you something. There is something Igbo people always say. He said, Igbo people always say something. There's an adage. What does that mean? Let me tell you the truth. Do you know during COVID, it was the best season for some people? Do you know that?
Yes.
Do you know, even when people are crying, we are dying of hunger in Nigeria, do you know it is the best season for some people? Because the Bible said that during the famine time, there was no bread everywhere, but there was bread in Egypt. Because one man chose to live an intentional life. One man was deliberate and put a system and a structure in place. So during that time, when people were crying, oh, we are dying of hunger. There was bread in Egypt. It didn't come by stubbornness. Did it? No. It didn't come by speaking in tongues. It didn't come by sleeping in church and for doing night vigil back to back. It didn't come. It came by deliberate acts, step by step. Now we move. It said, excuse me, it said then in 57 verse 50, it said, so all countries came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain because the famine was severe in all the lands. Can you imagine Nigeria is going through what it's going through, and people see you living large? They won't understand. Your living large was not a product of that moment. It was a product of many years' decision. See, the case study we are studying this evening. Joseph planned 14 years ahead of time. He didn't start planning when the famine season started. Remember, he started planning when he had more than enough. It was immeasurable, as in he could have been carried away not to save anything as well. We have so much, but because a dream had come, an interpretation of that dream means that the season of the plenty will end, and there will be a season of lack. So he said, Pharaoh, you need a discerning and a wise man. It was wisdom that gave him that insight. And he became deliberate and intentional, and he put a structure in place. Let's move. Then let's go to Genesis 47. I'm going to shock you people, and I'm going to liken what we are studying this night to what is currently happening in so many countries, especially Nigeria. So Genesis 47, verse 13 to 17, and it says, listen, now there was no bread in all the lands. Now there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe. I know this is the case of many of us, excuse me. So that the land of Egypt and Canaan languished because of the famine. And you know why I like this topic, the woman and her money, is because ideally, you know, when we get married, our husbands are meant to take care of us, right? And we feel before now, there's really no need for us to have money or to even work. But you know, everything is changing now. Because if you do a statistics, you find out that many women are actually the ones carrying their homes. So that means that women has to be independent, not to be submissive to their husband, but independent in the sense that they need to start being productive, enterprising. Now, that is why I like the topic, the woman and her money. Because before now, we didn't feel we need to. A woman didn't feel I can buy a land and build a house. It's a man's affair. It's a man's affair. We didn't see it in that regard before, and it's just for us to just have just little money, little savings. No, I want you to expand your area of horizon. I want you to expand your mind. The only person that can limit you is your mind. The person we are studying is, regardless of whether Joseph is a man or a woman, it applies to every one of us here. So it doesn't have anything to do with a man or a woman, but because we want to change the narrative, because God has given us something that is so valuable, we need to change our way of thinking. We need to have a mind shift. That is why we are doing this. Now, we are still on Genesis 47, 13 to 17. So I read, it said, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph bought the money into Pharaoh's house. I will still need you to go back and read this again. This is the shocking part of the whole thing. Follow me. And he said in verse 15, so when the money failed, remember, he said that Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. He said, so when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed. Will you agree with me that money has failed in Nigeria? Because people think it's a hopeless situation. That's why people think, in fact, I think the best thing for me to do is to run out of this country. If it is God's will for you to run out of Nigeria, fine. But if it's not God's will, let me tell you the truth, you will go there, you will suffer. I'm not prophesying, I'm not a prophet of doom. But I just want you to be sure God is leading you. Because whatever that is happening now in any country has happened before. There is nothing new under the sun. Money failed in Egypt. Now money has failed. You know, we've been talking about money. Money has failed. So what next? What do we do? You're a civil servant, you're a career person, you're a business person. Money has failed you. So what next? That is why I tell you that wealth is not all about money. Life does not consist of, how much do I have? I don't have money. I don't have anything in my bank account. No. It's beyond that. Because money failed in Egypt. And remember, when he did, the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, now money has failed. What do we do? He said, give us bread. For why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed. Follow me. Then in verse 20, he said, then Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. For every man of the Egyptians sold his field, because the famine was severe upon them. So the land became Pharaoh's. I don't know if somebody is seeing something here. What is happening here is that now money has failed. Now, I know if I ask you, the next thing, if money has failed, because I know so many people, if you don't have money again, the next thing is that, what do I do? Depression, suicidal thoughts. What am I going to do? Or the next thing is that let me go and borrow. But you know, when you borrow, you're a slave because you pay back. And really and truly, nobody really dashes people money these days again. Even the so-called people that even dash you money, they don't even have, or they don't even have enough for themselves. How much more giving to you? So now money has failed. But if you read well, there was something they had. If you remember, before we entered this particular case study, there was something. Remember this. Before we started this case study, the caption was the value for money. What does that mean? Money has failed, but money has value. So if money has failed, what next? The Bible said that the Egyptians sold their field. So meaning money failed, but they had something that is of value they could use in exchange to get bread. Because the Bible said that the famine was severe. They needed to survive. So they needed to get something else that is of value, that is not money, which was what? Their fields. Follow me. Now, it said, when Joseph gathered all the fields, all the lands, in exchange for what? Bread to the Egyptians. He did what? The land became Pharaoh's. That is why till today, every land in Egypt belongs to Pharaoh, except the land for the priests. Every land, because of the deliberate act of one man. Now, this man didn't save himself. He saved himself. He saved his family. He saved a nation, and he saved other surrounding nations around him. Now we move. Now, our second case study, which is where we are going to zero on in very well, is the wife of the son of the prophet. in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1 to 4. 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 1 to 4. I read from verse 1. He said, now the wife of the son of the prophets cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that your servant feared the Lord. But the creditor has come to take my 2 sons to be his slaves. Now, in this case, she didn't have money. Follow me. Because I want you to debunk this idea of, I don't have no money. So if I don't have money, I can't function. No. Wealth is beyond money. And Elisha said to her, listen very well, he said, amplified AMPC, he said, what shall I do for you? And he asked her, tell me what you have of sale value. Women of rubies, sorry, am I getting your name correctly? I'm asking you this question.
Of rubies.
Women above rubies, beautiful. I'm asking you this question, and everyone that is on this call, what do you have that is of sale value? Have you thought about this? You don't have money, no problem. But what do you have that is of sale value? What do you have that it can be exchanged for money? What do you have that has sale value, that is that can give you return on investment? You have to look inwards. What do you have? If you know, please, I need you to share in the comment section. What do you have? And he said, the woman answered, your handmaid has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. Does that shock you? This woman doesn't have anything. She just has a jar of oil. So meaning she has something. Yes, somebody said my skills and talent. What is that your skill? What is that your talent? Look inwards and ask yourself, what do you have? What if money fails? What do you have that is of sale value? I want you to, if you don't take anything out from this meeting tonight, take this thing out. If you need to go on a journey of a self-discovery, please do. If you need to go on a journey of self-realizations, please do. Because if you do not have anything that is of self-value, then I'm sorry, I can't help you. When you pray, when you fast, what God gives you is what? An idea. God doesn't throw money from the skies or from heaven. When you ask God for money, he gives you an instruction in form of an idea. The prompt implementation and obedience to that is what brings about wealth creation. So I didn't come here to begin to tell you this is the way you're going to, if you save 10%, if you save 20%, if you do that, you break it down. We've held all those things, but we have done nothing. Because we do not even know what we have that is of sale value. So this is an assignment that you will have to do. Find out what you have that you can exchange for money. And I tell you, when you start that journey, you will not only create wealth, but you will retain and multiply. So let's move. So understanding your spending decision. Understanding your spending decision. Now we've laid the background about what do you have that is of sale value. What do you have that you can exchange with money? Remember, the first case study put system and structure in place. And let me tell you the truth, it's never too late to start. You don't need to have 1 million for you to start. And my own personal advice for those living in Nigeria, it's better to save in foreign currency, dollar precisely. Why? Because you can't easily go there to change it to use it. Many of us save money in Naira, but we end up using it. We've deployed so many ways. Maybe we put it in an account we don't even use. When push comes to shove, you go and withdraw it. And even if you're saving, you must be able to know a certain percentage of what goes in as seed and what goes in as bread. Because the seed is what you multiply to get more. Because as long as you keep multiplying, you will keep getting. But if you save and it's there, money saved doesn't multiply. The money that multiplies is the money that is invested. So you must have a portion that you set aside as seed. Let me give you an analogy, and I know a lot of us will remember this. Growing up as a young girl, when we traveled to our hometown, when my grandmother was still alive, when she harvests corn, she brings a portion that we boil and eat. Then there is a portion, excuse me, because then she uses firewood. Then now, I know a lot of us are accustomed to that. Then on top of the firewood, there is this rope-like something called ngega that they put on top of the firewood. So that whenever you're maybe cooking or maybe when you stop cooking, the whatever that comes from the firewood goes up. Now she places the corn on top of that net. When I asked, she said that she's preparing that corn, that is the corn that she set aside as seed to prepare it for the next planting season. Because no matter how sweet the corn is, if you eat everything, you will not have what you will plant that will bring about new corn in the next planting season. And a lot of us, when we get our money, some of us are quite prudent enough to just take away our tithe for those that pay tithes, and we deal with the rest the way we want. If you don't take out a portion that you split into food and seed, you will continually and perpetually live in penury. That's the truth. Regardless of how much it is, start little. You don't need to have it too much. But like I said, it's a system and it's a structure you have to intentionally put in place. And as you keep gathering it, you separate the seed from the bread. A time comes, it begins to blossom. Remember that the same Bible tells us that invest in 7, maybe 8. I normally tell people this. If you're working, your job is one source of income, one. Even if you're paid 100 million, it's one. Because if anything happens to that one, you have nothing. And if the Bible has instructed us to invest in 7 or 8 ventures, because we don't know when calamity will come. So that means that if you have a job, that's one. So mean you should have at least 7 sources. Now, the 7 sources where the income comes from might be daily income, weekly income, monthly income, or staggered income. Staggered in the sense, sorry. 1 minute, please. I need to put on the gen. 1 minute, please. The income can be staggered. It can be daily, it can be monthly, it can be weekly, or it can be staggered. But at least let there be 7 different sources, because if something happens to one, you still have 6, right? If something happens to 1 out of the 6, you still have 5. But if it is only 1, like I said, regardless of how much you are paid, regardless, 1 is not safe. Even if you're doing business, you still have to have 7 sources, because 1 is not safe. And if you keep to only 1, anything can happen at any time. So let's move. Understanding your spending decision. Now, it's one thing to know how to create this wealth. It's one thing to know how to make this money. But oftentimes, the management of money, it's difficult for a whole lot of us. Now, and the basic thing that determines how you manage money, it's your spending decision. If you can work on your spending habits, then you will know how to manage money. So we will just go into understanding the 3 battles of spending. This is you. So you have wants. Wants are giving choices. That is what you prefer. Then you have needs. Needs are basic necessity. You feel deprived if they are absent. Then demands. Demand is a one that is supported by a decision and a capacity to buy. I will take it one after the other. We normally have so many wants. If you start tracking your expenses, or maybe your spending, how will I put it now, as in your spending choices, you will notice that your wants are more. Now, your wants are giving choice. This is what you prefer. But if you deep dive, it's not what you necessarily need. They are not basic necessities. And if you're deprived of them, nothing really happens to you. So there are so many. And that is why many people find themselves. The art of managing money is being able to control your spending habits. Now, when it comes to your needs, these are the basic necessities that no matter what, regardless, if you don't do anything about it, you feel deprived. Now, demands are one that are supported by decision and capacity to buy. Now, when you have a demand, you will ask yourself, do I really need this? Now, if you need it, that's one. Do I have the capacity to buy it? When you start doing this and living an intentional life, you will notice that, one, you will stop buying things on impulse. 2, you will stop this act of any little thing that happens, you go ahead and borrow. Because as long as you keep borrowing, you will keep being a slave to the lender. And I want each and every one of us to attain that level of financial maturity that you stop borrowing. Do you know why? When you begin to build reservoirs, you won't have need to borrow. Because if you remember what we read, that Joseph said, that why we have to take out 20% is to reserve. From the season of plenty, because the season of famine will be very severe. So when you start building reservoirs, if you remember, those of us like Angelica, we went to Queens. If you remember, then in the boarding house, we had a massive reservoir down the field. Now that reservoir is not activated until there is no water flow in the school. and there is no other means of getting water.
Yeah.
And we go down there to get water. Now, if you notice that when people dig well is not as deep as reservoir. It's never as deep as reservoir. Reservoir can stay for years without being touched. But the day you need it, you will understand why it is called a reservoir. Now, I want each and every one of us to begin to build reservoirs so that you can fall back on yourself. You know, some people will tell you, let me have somebody I'll fall back on. No, you can fall back on yourself. Now, I'm telling you this thing out of experience. I used to borrow. I'm not a cent. As an after borrowing, the moment they pay salary, you borrow again. Then another time they pay, you keep borrowing. And at some point I said, God, you know what? I told my husband, I am tired. Because I am a slave. Why? When salary comes, everybody's rejoicing that salary has come. You will not be happy because you know that 3/4 of that money is going into servicing your debts. And I told my husband, do you know what? Excuse me. Let's sacrifice and tell ourselves in the next 5 months is going to take out a lot from us. Let's pay every debt that we have. It was a structure. It was a system. We embarked on it. It wasn't easy. We had to deprive ourselves of everything, as in we adopted the method of look and pass. As you see something, you just look at, just keep your eyes straight, your face. When we finished clearing all the debts, excuse me, we now started saving. So what I started doing was I said, you know what? I'm going to build a reservoir. I said it little by little. I'll put little by, I have my own calculations, what I bring out for aside from my tithe, what I bring out for seed, what I bring out for food, for bread, what I bring out for different projects, for miscellaneous and all that. I had to do that. It was an intentional thing. And do you know what? I started noticing my account started growing, my savings, my reservoir started growing. At some point, I felt, sometimes when some things will happen suddenly, as in because you're seeing it in there, you just quickly go and, excuse me, I did a business. And when the BDC guy wanted to pay me, I said, you know what, just pay me in dollars. I don't want to touch this money. And I gave him my dollar account, he paid into it. Before I could say, Jack, do you know it was easier for me to save $1 million in dollars? I'm telling you the honest truth. It was easier for me to save it in dollars than in naira. And I was happy. I was so happy and excited. I kept building the reservoir, the dollar. I have a dollar account, excuse me, I have a pounds account and I have a naira account. I said, now, if something comes up suddenly, maybe like we're doing a business and we need to put in capital, I go to that reservoir. And after, if we need to put it back, we put it back to that place. Because the truth is, a time came when, even when I tell people that I need money, they don't even believe me. They feel, Ada, no, we can't be saying this. And I'm like, I said I need. They said, that please, you're just joking. They'll just laugh about it. And at some point, the only person I could tell that I needed money was just one person. And maybe by the time I get to the person, he will even tell me I don't even have. So what did I have to do? I won't steal. I had to start this journey. I started the journey of building reservoir, living an intentional life. And I want to tell you the honest truth, it paid off. Big time, it paid off. So let's move. So money mapping. How to map your money. First things first. First things first. Go and acquire wealth education. Like I said earlier when we started, we go to university to study. After law, we go for law school. For those that did medicine, after that 6 years, they go for housemanship. And after that, they even go to read specialist course. Do you understand? It's only when it comes to wealth or finances that we don't feel we need wealth education. And that's why many of us are in trouble. So first thing first, you must go and acquire wealth education from an expert. Excuse me. Then always have a budget. This is very important. You can't live your life anyhow. And even if you do, you used to live your life anyhow, you can't live your life anyhow now because there is nobody to even help. That's the truth. There is nobody to help. There is nobody to help. So when you remember that the person you're even going to ask for money does not even have, what will you do? Then you begin to do what? Set budgets. The way in the bank, excuse me, they give us targets, it's the same way. Nothing stops you because most of the time people set their goals beginning of the year and have into quarter one, nothing is implemented. So you have to give yourself a limit for unbudgeted spending. I know we are all guilty of this. We are all guilty of this, but you must give yourself a limit. There are some spending we don't budget for, but if you don't put a cap to it and you're not bullish about it, we will be telling the same story over and over again. Then you must track your spending. Sometimes I do it. I know sometimes it happens to a whole lot of us. Sometimes maybe you got like 100,000 and in the next 2 days, you can't even say where the money went to. What you need to do is to sit down and ask yourself, excuse me, what did I use this money for? These things I'm saying, they are sounding like Greek, but like I said, it has to be intentional. If you're not ready to live an intentional life, if you're not ready to live a deliberate life, then it means that you're not ready to have a mind shift when it comes to money matters. So that means that, there was something the Bible said that the poor will always be amongst you. So it means that you will fulfill that part of the scripture because I don't want to. So something has to go out of you because you must live deliberately. Then you must work with a financial coach to build sources of income. Sometimes people will tell you, I don't even know, I want to invest, but I don't even know where to invest. There are so many things. So many people can come with so many things. I'm not a fan of any particular one. Like I said, I'm not here to tell you, okay, do it this way, but when you meet a financial coach or you go for a wealth education, those things will now be broken down. Somebody will hold you by the hand and said, okay, these are the several portfolios. Which one can you do? And like I also said, what do you have that is of sales value? There must be something that you have that you can use to exchange for money. Because for you to get up to that 7 sources of income, apart from investing in some portfolios, there are some things that you have that you can exchange for money, which when you do that, money will still come. Then don't commit to any new recurring monthly bills. There are some statutory recurring monthly bills like you pay, you buy water, you pay for, excuse me, NEPA recharge, you pay for what again? So there are ones that are statutory. You know that there is nothing, you don't even have control over them. You must pay those bills monthly. So don't commit to new ones. Or maybe, for example, let me say, like, okay, like me in my house, there's this woman that does tiger nut that I like very well. So every week I buy it. Every week I buy it. And before you know what's happening, maybe 5,000 goes out of you every week. And excuse me, and it's not like it's food, it's just a drink. And it's not something that you must be doing every week. If you don't take your time, it becomes recurring. So don't commit. Once you notice that it has become recurring, cut it off. If there is need, once in a while, you can just do some unbudgeted spending. You can, but not that it now becomes recurring. Then make sure you're paying the best prices. Yes, I tell people that the best set of people are negotiators. You must learn how to negotiate. No matter how cheap, in quotes, something looks, you can negotiate further. You never can tell. So that you get the best price every time. That way, it will not eat into your income. Then you must save up for big purchases. Yes. When you want to do some big purchases, you just can't just walk in because there must be planning for everything. That's living intentionally. If you want to buy a house, for example, you must, okay, this is how much that I need to buy the house, 30 million. Okay, how do I make this 30 million? I earn salary of 600,000. okay, I can be saving 200,000 every month. I have a business that gives me like 300,000, so I can be 700,000 from that every month. I have, excuse me, okay, I can write letters to some organizations that I want to train their staff because I'm a trainer. So maybe I want to charge them 200,000. So for each one that I train and I charge 200,000, I will maybe like save like 100,000. That's 400,000. Do you understand? You make these plans, you save for it, then before you go for it. It makes life easy. Then run away from emotional spending, please. Spending on impulse. Sometimes I might be passing through a particular supermarket or maybe through a particular place that I know that oftentimes when I enter into there, I will not be able to hold myself. I just go. Delayed gratification. I just go. Like I said, there must be a mind shift. You must unlearn some things because if you're not ready to do that, then you will still be a slave to money. Then limit or cut off your credit purchases. As much as is possible, please don't buy on credit. It has destroyed a whole lot of people. If you're not ready to pay, like what I normally do to people, I tell them, I'm a civil servant and I earn salary. So if I'm buying something from you now, I will tell you, okay, can you allow me to pay at the end, as in when they pay at the end of the month? So that if I am putting that at the end of the month, I know that I've already budgeted to pay for something, then I won't take so much so that my income will not be squeezed. And once I've taken something for that month, any other thing that I'm buying, I will tell you, I've already committed to some things this month. The next space I have is for next month. So can you accommodate that? If the person says he can accommodate, fine. But if not, do not, because oftentimes we just buy without making plans of when to pay. Most of the time, you run into troubles. Then radically contribute to saving for investment purposes. This is the only way of multiplying income. This is the only way. And let me tell you, okay, we are women, we are here. Let me tell you something. Aside from the numerous ways of you saving money for investment, which I know all of us have here, do you know Isusu is really beneficial? Thrift is very, very beneficial. But let me tell you something. Okay, 5 minutes. Let me tell you something about Isusu. If you don't have a project attached to that particular thrift, you will spend it. You will misuse it. If you don't have a project, so before you enter into thrift contribution, please have a project attached to it so that when you collect it, you will do that project so that by the time you do it, you will say, okay, this is what I used this thrift contribution to do. So we move. So I have basically 5 minutes, but in the 5 minutes, I want to tell you something. Go and get a wealth education. What we have done this evening or this night is basically laying the foundation, debunking some of the things that we have held on to so long that has not been very beneficial to us when it comes to money matters. We have to go for proper wealth education because if you don't, you will keep making these mistakes. We go to university, we learn a lot of things, but when it comes to money matters, we feel we can just, or maybe God, no. When it comes to spiritual matters, you know where to get it. When it comes to everything in life, you know, but you must intentionally go and get wealth education. So finally, join the wealth mentorship class. That is after now, anybody that is interested, because wealth is a journey. And you need someone to hold you by the hand to go through that journey. If you don't, you might hit the rock. Chances are that you might hit the rock, or you might start off so very well and end up badly. Thank you very much. So any question?